You wake up, and before the conscious world even fully registers in your mind, they are already there. It happens in a split second, the briefest moment of peace, followed instantly by a heavy, suffocating weight dropping onto your chest. You check your phone. Nothing. Just an empty screen. The silence is so loud, it is almost deafening. And then, the loop begins. Your brain starts running a marathon of impossible questions. You replay the last conversation, you dissect the last text message, you analyze the exact tone of their voice the last time they looked at you. You ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Was I too needy? Did I push too hard? Do they even care? Did any of it actually matter to them? You have conversations with them in the shower. You argue with their phantom presence while you are driving. You are spending hours, days, entire months of your life hopelessly trapped inside their head, trying to decode a puzzle that has no missing pieces, just pieces that do not fit. You are completely consumed. But here is the most agonizing part of this entire experience. Here is the thought that keeps you staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. You are doing all of this excruciating mental labor while they seem perfectly fine. They walked away. They deactivated. They shut the heavy iron door on the relationship. And from the outside looking in, it looks like they have not looked back a single time. They might be posting online. They might be throwing themselves into work. They might even be with someone new. They look so calm, so cold, so incredibly detached. It makes you feel like you were losing your mind. It makes you feel like you imagined the depth of the connection entirely. But I want you to pause right here. Take a deep breath. Is that the truth? Is their mind truly as quiet and peaceful as their absence suggests? The short answer is no. The long answer, it's deeply complex, highly unconscious, and rooted in survival mechanisms that were wired into their nervous system long before they ever met you. Welcome back to the Healing Mirror. Today we are going straight into the shadows. We are going to tear down the carefully constructed facade of the dismissive avoidant. If an avoidant partner is on your mind every single day, if their ghost is living rent-free inside your nervous system and draining your life force, I need you to listen to me very, very carefully. Because while your brain is currently on fire, while you're starving for just a drop of closure, their brain is undergoing a completely different, almost alien psychological process. Today we are going to explore the 4 psychological and neurological realities of what is actually happening to an avoidant after they distance themselves from you. We are going to look at this through the lens of neuroscience and attachment theory. We are not going to sugarcoat this. We are not going to feed you the comforting lies you might want to hear. We are going to look at the brutal, clinical, and undeniable facts, because understanding the mechanics of their mind is the only way you will finally be able to free your own. Prepare yourself, because the truth about their silence is about to change everything you thought you knew. Before we can step into the shadows of their mind, we must first understand the absolute chaos currently ravaging yours. You are not weak. You are not crazy. You are not simply having a hard time moving on. What you are experiencing right now is a severe clinical biochemical withdrawal. Your brain is acting exactly like the brain of an addict who has been suddenly and violently cut off from their supply. Let us look at the neuroscience. When you were with this avoidant partner, the connection was rarely a steady, calm river. It was a roller coaster. One day they were warm. They were present. They looked at you like you were the only person in the world. They gave you just enough vulnerability, just enough breadcrumbs of intimacy to make you feel incredibly safe. And your brain registered this as a massive intoxicating hit of dopamine and oxytocin. But then, the inevitable shift happened. They pulled away. Their text messages got shorter. Their tone got colder. The physical distance grew. The heavy emotional wall slammed down seemingly out of nowhere. Suddenly your brain was starved of those crucial neurochemicals. You were plunged into a deficit. This creates a devastating psychological dynamic known as intermittent reinforcement. It is the exact same mechanism used in a casino. It is the psychology of a slot machine. You never know when the jackpot is coming. You never know when you will get the good version of them again. So, you keep pulling the lever. You keep trying. You keep modifying your behavior. You keep giving more, hoping to trigger that reward. Because your brain has learned a dangerous lesson, the only cure for the intense pain of their distance is the unpredictable reward of their validation. And now that they are completely gone, now that there is only a vast empty silence, your nervous system is in a state of absolute unmitigated panic. Your amygdala, the primitive fear center of your brain, is sounding an incredibly loud alarm. To your subconscious mind, this sudden loss of connection does not just feel like a breakup. It feels like a literal threat to your physical survival. Historically, human beings needed close bonds to survive. Being abandoned by the tribe meant isolation. Isolation meant death. So, when the avoidant cuts you off, your nervous system interprets their silence as a primal danger. Your cortisol levels skyrocket. Your chest feels tight. You cannot eat. You cannot focus. You wake up with your heart racing. You are trapped in a chronic, exhausting state of fight or flight. And the only way your brain knows how to fight this invisible threat is to obsess. You obsessively check their social media. You look to see when they were last online. You search for hidden meanings in the things they post. You are trying to find logic in a profoundly illogical situation. You believe that if you can just figure them out, if you can just decode why they left, if you can just find the perfect sequence of words to make them understand your value, then maybe you can regain control and feel safe again. You are trying to solve a puzzle to save your own life. But here is the tragic, heartbreaking irony of the situation. While your nervous system is screaming, panicking, and burning itself out trying to pull them back in, their nervous system is doing the exact opposite. While you are experiencing the agonizing flames of abandonment, they are experiencing something entirely different, something that will probably make your stomach turn. Let us cross the bridge into their reality. Let us uncover the first truth. I need you to brace yourself for this next part, because the first reality of what is happening in their mind is often the most painful pill to swallow. It is the truth that keeps you awake. It is the truth that feels like a physical punch to the gut. When the door finally closed, when the final text was sent, or when they simply vanished into thin air, what did they feel in those immediate days and weeks following the disconnect? Did they cry? Did they regret it? Did they miss you the way you were missing them? No. The overwhelming dominant emotion that floods an avoidant system the moment they walk away is relief. Pure, intoxicating relief. I know how much that hurts to hear. I know it makes you feel completely devalued. It makes you feel like the entire relationship was a lie. But you must look at this through the lens of their neurobiology, not yours. You must understand how their brain translates the concept of love. For you, emotional intimacy is a safe harbor. It is where you go to calm your nervous system. When you are close to someone, your brain releases oxytocin. You feel anchored. You feel secure. But for a dismissive avoidant, the exact opposite is true. In their subconscious mind, intimacy is not a warm blanket. Intimacy is a heavy, suffocating cage. Due to early childhood conditioning, their brain has been hardwired to link emotional closeness with a loss of autonomy. Love to them historically meant having to sacrifice their own needs. It meant being smothered. It meant being drained. We call this the fear of engulfment. As your relationship deepened, as you naturally started asking for more consistency, more emotional presence, more commitment, your brain was seeking safety. But their brain was registering a massive, terrifying threat. Every time you wanted to talk about feelings, every time you asked, "Where is this going?" Every time you simply needed them to show up for you, their amygdala was firing on all cylinders. Their nervous system was flooding with cortisol. The pressure was building. They felt like the walls were closing in. They felt like they were being swallowed whole by your needs, even if your needs were completely normal and healthy. The biological cost of maintaining the connection simply became too high for their unhealed trauma to bear. So, they pulled the plug. And the moment they did, the pressure valve was released. This is the brutal reality of their silence. While your nervous system is spiking into hyperarousal, while your heart is racing and your cortisol is poisoning your sleep, their nervous system is doing the exact opposite. Their nervous system is finally deactivating. They are sitting in their empty apartment. Their phone is quiet. No one is asking them to process complex emotions. No one is holding them accountable for their behavior. No one is looking deeply into their eyes and asking them to be vulnerable. And to a deeply unhealed avoidant, that emptiness feels like breathing fresh air after being held underwater. The silence that is currently tearing your soul apart is the exact same silence that is regulating their immediate anxiety. You must understand this crucial distinction. Their relief is not a reflection of your worth. It is not because you were unlovable. It is not because you were not enough. Their relief is entirely about escaping the unbearable internal pressure of their own emotional suppression. They are not escaping you. They are escaping the mirror you held up, the mirror that demanded they look at their own capacity to connect. They chose the familiar safety of isolation over the terrifying vulnerability of true love. But does this relief last forever? Does this feeling of freedom mean they have permanently moved on and forgotten you? That brings us to the second psychological mechanism happening right beneath the surface. And it involves a highly sophisticated, deeply unconscious magic trick that their brain plays on them just to survive the day. So, how do they sustain this relief? How do they keep the ghost of your relationship from haunting their quiet moments? How do they wake up every day, look in the mirror, and pretend that the profound connection you shared simply never existed? They do this through a psychological defense mechanism so powerful, so deeply ingrained in their neurology, that it almost looks like magic. It is called compartmentalization. I want you to imagine the avoidant mind as a massive, dimly lit warehouse. Inside this warehouse, there are thousands of heavy steel boxes. When a securely attached person goes through a breakup, their emotional box is ripped wide open. The memories, the grief, the anger, the love, it all spills out all over the floor. The secure person has to sit in that mess. They have to look at it, they have to process it, cry over it, and slowly clean it up. It is agonizing, but it is how human beings heal. The avoidant brain does not do this. The avoidant brain looks at that overwhelming mess of emotions, and it completely short circuits. It lacks the internal emotional scaffolding to process complex grief, guilt, or shame. To their nervous system, feeling that level of emotional depth is equivalent to a fatal system failure. So, what does their brain do to survive? It gathers every single memory of you, every late-night conversation, every inside joke, every time they looked at you and felt real terrifying love, every ounce of guilt they feel for walking away. It shoves all of it into one of those heavy steel boxes. It slams the lid shut. It locks it with a heavy padlock, and it throws away the key. They do not process you. They quarantine you. They build a massive impenetrable wall between their conscious awareness and their subconscious feelings for you. And this is exactly why you see them suddenly living what looks like their best life immediately after the breakup. This is why you see them posting pictures at the bar with friends. This is why they suddenly throw themselves into an 80-hour work week. This is why they pick up extreme new hobbies or book a sudden trip across the country. This is why, and this is the most painful one, this is why they might jump straight onto dating apps or into the arms of someone completely new. You look at this fake busyness, and it shatters your heart. You think to yourself, look at how easily they replaced me. Look at how happy they are without me. But I need you to look closer. I need you to look past the illusion. They are not moving on. They are running. They are running as fast as their legs can carry them, away from that locked steel box in the back of their mind. Because here is the neurological catch about compartmentalization. Keeping that box locked requires an immense continuous amount of subconscious energy. If they stop moving, if they sit alone in silence, if they allow themselves a single moment of genuine quiet introspection, the heavy steel lid of that box will start to rattle. The suppressed emotions will begin to bleed through the cracks, and they cannot let that happen. So they desperately farm their environment for cheap dopamine. They need constant superficial distractions, a new project at work, a new text from a stranger, a new video game, a new drink. They are using short-term, low-quality dopamine hits to numb the deep underlying void that your absence has created. The person they are out with right now, the rebound, the superficial friends, they are not a replacement for your soul-deep connection. They are merely human shields. They are buffers designed to protect the avoidant from their own internal silence. While you are sitting in the fire feeling the pain and actually healing your wounds, they are merely hitting the snooze button on a bomb that is quietly ticking away in their subconscious. And that ticking bomb leads us directly to the second undeniable reality of their experience. Because eventually, the distance they created does something completely unexpected to their perception of you. We have arrived at the second psychological reality, and this one is a profound, almost tragic paradox. It goes against everything you believe about love. It defies all logic. But in the upside-down world of the dismissive avoidant, it is the absolute governing law of their existence. The second reality is this: your total absence is the exact condition required for them to feel safe. Let that sink in for a moment. You spent months, maybe years, trying to prove to them that you were a safe place. You offered them consistency. You offered them patience. You poured your empathy into their wounds. You thought that by being physically and emotionally present, you were showing them that they did not have to run anymore. But their brain does not process safety the way yours does. To understand why, we have to look deep into their subconscious threat assessment system. In neuroscience, this is called neuroception. It is the primitive radar inside the brain that constantly scans the environment, asking one simple question: am I safe or am I in danger? For you, connection means safety. Isolation means danger. But for the dismissive avoidant, that radar is fundamentally inverted. Let us go back to their childhood. The core wound of an avoidant usually stems from one of two environments. Either their primary caregivers were deeply emotionally neglectful, forcing the child to violently suppress their own needs and become fiercely self-reliant just to survive. Or their caregivers were overly enmeshed, controlling, and invasive, making the child feel like love meant being consumed and losing their identity. Either way, their developing brain learned a terrifying lesson. Intimacy is dangerous. Relying on someone else leads to pain. Closeness equals a loss of self. Fast forward to the day they met you. You were warm. You were loving. You were the safest partner they had ever encountered. But their broken radar did not register your love as a warm fire to sit by. Their amygdala registered your love as a raging forest fire, and it was coming right for them. Every time you got closer, every time the emotional intimacy deepened, their subconscious sounded the alarm: danger, retreat. They are going to expect things from you. They are going to swallow you whole. You are going to lose your freedom. They were not reacting to the reality of who you are. They were reacting to the ghost of their past, projected onto you. And now, we return to the present moment, now that the relationship is over, now that they have successfully pushed you away. Why do they feel so calm? Why do they seem so unbothered? Because the perceived threat has been neutralized. The physical and emotional distance they force between you two is not an act of cruelty. It is a shield. It is a massive, impenetrable fortress they have built to protect their inner child from the core wound of engulfment. Inside this fortress of isolation, they are completely in control. No one is asking them to be vulnerable. No one is requiring them to mirror complex emotions. No one is holding a mirror up to their deepest insecurities. They are finally, safely, alone. It is a tragedy of human psychology. You were the cure they desperately needed, but their nervous system rejected you like an organ transplant. They pushed away the very thing that could have healed them, simply because the medicine burned on the way down. So you sit there agonizing over their silence. You wonder if they hate you. You wonder if you meant anything at all. You must stop taking their distance personally. Their distance has nothing to do with your value, and everything to do with their survival. But here is where the story takes a massive, unexpected turn. What happens when the fortress gets too quiet? What happens when the threat of your intimacy is so far away that their nervous system finally completely powers down? What happens when they actually start to feel safe again? The fortress is built, the moat is drawn. They are perfectly safe inside their walls. The heavy, suffocating pressure of your love has finally evaporated. For weeks, maybe even months, they ride the high of this relief. But human biology is a relentless force, and eventually, the dopamine hits of their superficial distractions begin to wear off. The fake busyness loses its shine. The rebound relationships start to demand the very same emotional labor they just ran away from, and a profound, terrifying shift begins to happen in their nervous system. This brings us to the third reality, and it is a phenomenon that attachment experts call the Phantom X. To understand this, we have to look at how their brain processes memory and emotion when they are no longer in a state of fight or flight. When you were right in front of them, asking for love, asking for connection, their amygdala was hijacking their brain. They could not feel the positive emotions they had for you because their system was entirely focused on survival. Their cortisol levels were too high. The threat of engulfment was too immediate. But now that you are completely gone, now that you are no longer texting them, no longer calling them, no longer expecting anything from them, the threat is entirely neutralized. Their nervous system has returned to a baseline state of regulation. And in this sudden empty safety, something deeply tragic happens. The heavy steel box in their subconscious, the one where they locked away all their feelings for you, begins to unlock. Because you are no longer a physical threat to their autonomy, their brain finally grants them permission to access the positive memories. Their hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, starts to replay the highlight reel. They remember the way you laughed. They remember how incredibly safe they felt when you held them. They remember the deep late-night conversations where they actually let their guard down for a fraction of a second. They start to miss you. But here is the brutal, heartbreaking catch. I need you to listen to this very carefully. They do not miss the real living, breathing you. They miss the ghost of you. This is the Phantom X syndrome. A dismissive avoidant has a notorious, well-documented habit of idealizing past partners, but only long after the relationship is dead. Why? Because a ghost cannot demand anything from them. A memory cannot ask them to define the relationship. A memory does not get upset when they pull away. A memory does not require emotional vulnerability, consistency, or compromise. A memory is perfectly, completely safe. They can love you profoundly from a distance. They can sit in their empty room and feel a deep, overwhelming wave of nostalgia and affection for you. They can put you on a pedestal. But this love is entirely theoretical. It exists purely in the vacuum of their own mind. While you did the hard, agonizing work of grieving the relationship immediately after the breakup, they are experiencing what psychology calls delayed grief. You cried your tears on day 1. You faced the withdrawal. You walked through the fire. They are just starting to feel the loss on day 90 or day 180. You are finally starting to heal. Your nervous system is finally starting to regulate. You are finally stopping the obsessive thoughts. And right as you are finding your peace, they are just beginning to drown. They are caught in a nostalgia loop. They compare every new superficial connection to the profound depth they had with you, and every new person falls miserably short. Because no one can compete with a phantom. No one can compete with an idealized, perfect memory that requires zero actual work. You might wonder, if they miss me so much, if they are realizing how good we had it, why do they not just reach out? Why do they not just text me? Because reaching out means bringing the ghost back to life. Reaching out means reintroducing the physical thread of intimacy. They know deep down in their bones that if they let you back in, the cycle will instantly repeat itself. The walls will go right back up. Their nervous system will crash all over again. They are paralyzed, trapped between a desperate, lonely yearning for the past and an absolute biological terror of the present. And this paralyzing realization leads us directly into the dark, silent abyss of the fourth reality. We have reached the bottom of the abyss, the fourth and final reality. And this is the reality they will take to their grave. This is the truth they will never ever admit to you, to their friends, or perhaps even to themselves in the light of day. What happens when the Phantom X is not enough? What happens when the nostalgia loop becomes too painful and the realization sets in that they threw away the best thing that ever happened to them? You see, the human brain has a finite amount of energy. The psychological mechanism of compartmentalization, the act of actively holding down a locked box full of heavy, unprocessed emotions, requires a massive, continuous supply of cognitive bandwidth. In psychology, this is known as ego depletion. Eventually, the avoidant runs out of road. They run out of energy. The distractions stop working. The 80-hour work weeks lead to burnout. The superficial dopamine hits from dating apps become hollow and depressing. The rebound partner who initially served as a convenient human shield suddenly begins to ask for basic human connection, triggering the exact same cycle all over again. And then, the inevitable happens. The silent collapse. The profound dysregulation of their nervous system. When the silence of their apartment finally outweighs the noise of their distractions, the heavy iron lid on that locked box finally breaks open. But what comes out is not just the grief of losing you. It is something much older, something much darker. It is their core wound. Beneath the dismissive exterior, beneath the coldness, beneath the fear of engulfment, lives a deeply terrified, neglected inner child carrying a massive burden of toxic shame. In schema therapy, this is called the defectiveness schema. Deep down at the very foundation of their subconscious, the dismissive avoidant believes that they are fundamentally broken. They believe that they are inherently flawed and unlovable. This is the real reason they could not let you get too close. Their greatest, most terrifying fear was not actually that you would smother them. Their greatest fear was that if you got close enough, if you really truly saw behind the mask, you would realize how empty and broken they are. And then, you would abandon them. To their nervous system, your unconditional love was a spotlight shining directly on their deepest insecurities. They could not accept your love because they fundamentally do not believe they deserve it. So, they abandoned you first. They took control of the narrative. They orchestrated the breakup so they could be the ones to leave rather than surviving the unimaginable pain of being left. But now, sitting in the wreckage of their own choices, the ultimate crushing weight of their self-sabotage comes crashing down on them. This is the core loneliness of the avoidant. It is a profound, isolating chill in the bones. It is the realization that they are the architects of their own empty reality. They build walls to keep themselves safe, but those same walls have become their prison. They are staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m, feeling a vast echoing void inside their chest. They are drowning in a sea of unspoken regret, but they will never reach out, because their shame is too paralyzing. To reach out to you now would mean admitting they were wrong. It would mean facing the pain they caused you. It would require a level of emotional accountability and vulnerability that their fragile ego simply cannot survive. So they suffer in absolute deafening silence. They put the mask back on. They walk out the front door the next morning and they pretend to the world that everything is perfectly fine. You thought you were the only one suffering. You thought you were the only one left broken by this connection. But the truth is, you are mourning the loss of a relationship. They are mourning the loss of themselves. And this brings us to a critical turning point, because now that you know the clinical, brutal truth about what is happening behind their eyes, we need to talk about the illusions you are still holding on to. We need to shatter the final lies you are telling yourself when you look at their life from the outside. I need you to stop what you are doing. If you have their social media profile open on your phone, if you are obsessively checking their stories to see where they are or who they are with, I need you to close it right now. Because what you are looking at is a highly curated, deeply deceptive illusion. You see a photo of them smiling at a bar. You see them on a weekend getaway. You see them standing next to someone new. And your brain, which is currently starved of dopamine and drowning in the panic of cortisol, tells you a devastating lie. Your brain tells you they are completely fine. They have healed. They are giving this new person everything they could not give me. I was the problem. I was never enough. But you now know the neuroscience. You now understand the mechanics of the locked steel box. We must draw a hard clinical line between two very different psychological concepts. There is a massive difference between moving on and moving away. And as a securely attached person moves on, they sit in the ashes of the ruined relationship. They process the heavy grief. They take accountability for their own flaws. They regulate their nervous system through the pain. And then, and only then, do they slowly walk forward into a new life. A deeply unhealed, dismissive avoidant does not move on. They move away. They pack up their unresolved trauma. They pack up their paralyzing fear of engulfment. They pack up their toxic shame and their defectiveness schema. They shove it all into a suitcase, and they simply carry it to a new location, or they carry it to a new person. And this brings us to the most agonizing illusion of all, the rebound, the new partner. You look at this new person and your heart breaks. You wonder why they are getting the perfect version of your ex. You wonder why the relationship seems so effortless for them. It is effortless because it is shallow. It is working because there is absolutely no emotional depth yet. The new partner is not getting a healed, upgraded version of the avoidant. They are simply getting the honeymoon phase. They are getting the superficial, low-stakes, highly charming version of the avoidant. The version that does not trigger the amygdala's threat response. Because right now, the new partner is not a threat to their autonomy. But I need you to listen to me. It is a biological certainty. The exact moment that new partner asks for emotional consistency, the exact moment they try to take the relationship to a deeper level of true intimacy, the avoidance nervous system will sound the exact same terrifying alarm. The cortisol will flood their brain. The heavy iron walls will slam back down. The Phantom X phenomenon will activate, and the cycle will violently repeat itself. They did not find someone better than you. They simply hit the reset button on a fundamentally broken machine. So, where does this leave you? If they are trapped in their own endless loop of self-sabotage, how do you finally escape yours? We have spent this entire time wandering through the cold, haunted halls of their mind. We have unlocked their steel boxes. We have exposed their core wounds. But right now, in this exact moment, it is time to come home. For weeks or maybe even months, you have been living completely outside of your own body. You have been using every single drop of your cognitive energy to decode them, to figure them out, to understand why they did what they did. You became an amateur psychologist. You learned about attachment styles. You researched the fear of engulfment. You thought that if you could just find the absolute perfect explanation for their behavior, the pain in your chest would finally stop. But I need you to understand a critical, undeniable law of neuroscience. There is a famous principle in brain science: neurons that fire together, wire together. Every single time you replay their final words, every time you check their social media, every time you try to psychoanalyze their childhood trauma, you are doing severe, measurable damage to your own brain. You are actively carving a deeper, more permanent neural pathway of addiction in your mind. You are not finding closure. You are feeding the trauma bond. Your brain thinks that analyzing them is a form of problem solving. It is an illusion of control. Your nervous system believes that if it can perfectly map out the avoidance mind, it can protect you from getting hurt again. But the brutally honest truth is this: understanding their brokenness does not heal yours. You can know exactly why they left. You can perfectly articulate their subconscious fears. You can have absolute clinical proof that their withdrawal has nothing to do with your worth. But none of that knowledge will ever change the reality that they are fundamentally incapable of showing up for you. Knowing exactly why a venomous snake bit you does not extract the venom from your bloodstream. You have to stop trying to solve them. They are not a complex puzzle for you to master. They are a shattered mirror. And the harder you try to press the broken pieces back together, the more you are going to bleed. It is time to take all of that obsessive, hyper-vigilant energy and violently pull it back into your own nervous system. You need to initiate a full biochemical detox. You need to starve those deeply entrenched neural pathways of the dopamine and cortisol they have been desperately surviving on. This is why absolute strict no contact is not just a suggestion. It is a biological necessity. No contact is not a manipulation tactic to make them miss you. It is not a game you play to trigger their Phantom X syndrome. No contact is a neurological quarantine.